Off with roll call. Started, we can go clockwise. Patrick Fitzgerald, member here.
Oh, Lana Garcia, member here.
Tracy Sabina, member here.
Rick Emmelheinz, member here.
Logan is here.
Logan Dunning, member present.
City liaison.
Tim Dodd, and for Mel England as the liaison.
Perfect. And then welcome to our guests. We have a couple speakers tonight. That's Dana and Andrew. And then our fellow common guest. Can you introduce yourself?
Bruce Raymond, just
Perfect. Okay, so we can go ahead and get started here looking at the agenda. We'll start off with approval of last month's minutes. Open up to any questions, comments, edits on last month's meeting. If not, I will open the floor to approve last month's minutes.
move to approve.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, say nay. All right, approval of last month's minutes accepted. So we'll move on to the next slide, Tim. This is our minute for public forum. If there's anyone from the public. Not, we have planned speakers. So yeah, public forum, so go ahead and move ahead. So this is our standing community projects updates. This is usually Mel's slot. Logan, take it away.
Just a quick update, and Tim, can you note this for Mel? We'll need to meet as a communications subcommittee prior to our June meeting. We'll need to report out on what we would like to recommend for the fall magazine at our is it June 6th at our June meeting. So I'll send Mel a handful of dates. It's June 10th for us to meet as a subcommittee and pitch those ideas. Just wanted to flag that.
Sounds good.
And just really quick, as far as the project at Baird Park, I had to kick it a week. So it's going to be on Sunday, June 1st, which is kind of timely with the discussion that's going on about native plants, because that's what we are planting in Baird Park. So I'll have more details, but I just wanted to let you know that I pushed it back a week.
Are you doing any kind of communication to
Yes.
get out there?
Yes.
What do you got planned?
What do I have planned?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna send Mel a flyer that she's gonna get to communications.
Okay.
I have a list of people that have been, scanning the QR code at the park. So I have a whole list of volunteers there. But again, it's not just planting and work, it's also food and a band. So, taking it first.
Tracy, what time on the 1st do you think?
We'll probably start at 9, and I'm thinking it'll be like a 9 to 3 o'clock time frame as far as the planting, because we're gonna have a lot to plant. I don't expect that I'm gonna get it all done that day, but I'd like to get the majority of it done that day and then have kind of the celebration in the afternoon, kind of like 4 o'clock.
Sounds good. And I'll put in a quick thing here. We had Mel at the Great Earth Day event out here at the Civic Center on that Saturday or Saturday. I came in for a couple hour slot to represent Sustainability Commission, but Mel was repping us the whole day. But yeah, it was a good time. They had a couple things, sign-ups for the sustainability grant, business partnership. They were raffling off a tree for someone's backyard. So it was a fun time, the food truck and everything. So very successful. It was a beautiful day and had a lot of people coming by interested. They had a board out there. Mel had it for the response to the climate resiliency group. So more people were giving their opinions on what the outcomes were from the initial meeting and everything. So yeah, very successful event. So kudos to Mel when she gets back.
Thanks for representing.
Yeah, one little update on our newly founded certification group. We've met twice, once last night, once a couple weeks ago, and 6 people at the first one, 4 members last night. Danna was there. And we have, I think we've made a lot of progress. What do you think, Danna? I think we covered a lot of ground. You know, what we're doing, and we're in the process of sort of formulating what it is that we perceive as a sort of a acceptable space that could be put up for a certification. Sort of helping to start doing some definitions about that. What are we defining as native plants versus Coloradoscaping versus xeriscaping, and trying to come into something that we all feel comfortable with, trying to be as inclusive as possible in this so that even the people who've not done anything in terms of changing out their lawns can look at this and say, yeah, that's doable and I'd like to be a part of it. We're going to be in the process of actually reaching out to the water board with some financial numbers of perhaps what we would need to get the program off the ground, with the concept I think we agreed upon last night of having a pilot program where we'd maybe run it for a year or two, but not a totally committed thing, but just to see what kind of response we would get from it, and hoping that the water board would kind of encapsulate that along with their turf program and their box program and everything to be something which would move ahead their goals. And I think we're going to get a favorable reception from them. So we're hopefully meeting with them soon. And now we've had a lot of good ideas, a tremendous response. I mean, our discussion was spirited last night in a good way.
Yeah.
Because we started like breaking down the, you know, I think that's a good idea, into, I don't know that that's such a good idea. Let's go with this way. So we were not really, we've kind of taken that barrier down a little bit. So we're having a good time with it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then is there any point that you want to report out to the full commission, or?
Thank you.
get
Yes,
our
there will be.
feedback?
What we're trying to do is, our think is that this could potentially need to or wanted to present to the full council. And what we'd like to do is to kind of use the presentation to the Sustainability Commission as our practice round. Because what we want to do is we want to try to cross the T's and dot the I's and make sure that nobody blindsides us on something we hadn't given consideration to. So this commission will be really good to do a real good grilling on us. And then ultimately maybe present it to council to get at least a vote of approval for it, a confidence vote, so that we can move forward with it.
Great.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So yeah, whenever you want that time slot, just let us know. We'll put it on the next meeting. Sweet. Sounds great. I think that's it for our community updates. I think next is our standing DRCOG, but Christina's not here. I don't know if anyone else has any news from DRCOG. Hopefully, no news is good news. Who knows these days, but you can go ahead and move on to the next one. So yeah, go ahead and pass it off to Chef Andrew for his presentation on the Induction Stove Rental Program.
Great.
Demo as well.
Yeah. I don't know if you need a camera. I'm over here in the corner for the people
Supposed to
online.
move, but I don't know
I don't know if it ever moves.
All right. Well, thanks for having me in. I'm Andrew Forline,
Sure.
a resident here in Inglewood. And as we mentioned, the Induction Stove Program in the library, the Sustainability Commission, the Sustainability Grant we received last year put 4 induction burners with cookware kits in circulation. So in the Library of Things, they've had 75 to 100% circulation the first few months. No issues, except one didn't get returned, so they got charged for it. So we're now down to 3, but things are coming back clean and in shape. And so Hannah at the library has been giving me reports. A little bit about myself. I actually work for the City and County of Denver in the Climate Action Office. So I am on the Building and Home team. My role is Cooking Electrification Administrator. So my background is as a chef. I worked a lot in the appliance industry, teaching people about technology, and now I'm in that Climate Action Office. And we're looking at rebates, incentives, kind of programs. We work closely with DRCOG. And so we're developing those, hopefully get some of those out shortly. And I wanted to show you all how fun induction cooking is. So you're welcome to come up and join me if you want to sample. Are anyone here familiar with induction burners? Yeah? So induction is surface cooking. So when we use pots, pans, things like that for conduction, this is going to be a glass top burner, similar to what we might be used to. You can get them in a range with 4 burners on top of a 30-inch slide-in range. It's glass top, so it looked a lot like an electric burner, which doesn't really help us tell the story that it needs to be told. But but the way it creates heat and generates the heat is completely different. Think of an electric coil resistant heat burner. Even the glass top ones, it gets glowing red hot. That heat is going to slowly progress up and interact with the cookware. Whereas induction is creating a magnetic energy field. So there's a fine wire of copper and energy pulses through it, creating an electromagnetic energy field, which comes up here and interacts with the metal itself in the cookware. So the heat is actually generated in the cookware. The glass top will get warm to the touch, but that's just from the cookware back down. You'll see I melted chocolate. It's so low the temperature it can gently melt chocolate without scorching it. Traditionally, you would need to do a simmering pot of water and put a bowl over it or microwave your chocolate. So it demonstrates that the low lows are really low. So you can simmer and slow cook things, and then the highs are much higher than you can actually get in residential gas. So because we're doing that concentrated energy into the cookware, we're not going to have a lot of spillover heat spilling into the house, making the home uncomfortable. Also, it's not going to have a flame like a gas burner right on the handle, so you're not going to have a huge heated handle. Induction is 90 to 95% efficient in converting that energy into usable cookable heat. A radiant glass top, a radiant electric burner is about 75% efficient. You usually have to stop the cooking process by removing the pot or pan, right? All that heat's going to go into the house. In the winter, not such a problem, but not this time of year. We're not going to want that. Gas is 35 to 40% efficient. Most of the heat goes right around the cookware before the metal can absorb it. So you've got a really inefficient way of moving heat. And there's all kinds of noxious fumes, carbon dioxide, a lot of reports on asthma being contributed by gas cooking. So we see a much cleaner cooking capabilities with induction. One of the great things is your indoor air quality is going to be improved. We're not breathing all that stuff in. Safety, so there's a few built-in safety features. I cannot turn this on unless there's cookware to interact with. It'll just beep at me. So if there's no metal to interact with, there's nowhere for that energy to go into. So it's just going to sit there and it's going to shut off. It's right now flashing flight. The other side, if I leave a pan on and an emergency pulls me away, if it gets too hot, there's a thermostat in there that says you're not cooking, you're burning, and it shuts off automatically. So a lot of great safety features. We're seeing a lot of people putting induction in. Folks aging in place or retirement homes are now starting to do a lot of induction for those safety features. Then when we get renewable energy, which the grid is getting cleaner by the day, we're able to cook with cleaning. The other thing to think about, in residential setting, this is a little different from commercial, but residential setting, gas burners, and everyone thinks gas is the best, it's what everyone wants. Residential building code only limits the heat allowed to come out of that range, burner, whatever it is. They cap out about 20,000 BTUs. Commercial burners in the restaurants, we're looking at 30, 40,000 BTUs, up to over 100,000 BTUs for a wok burner. So the comparison there isn't the same. Everything people see on TV, the chef's cooking with, that's commercial. It's a cast iron grate that's usually a commercial open burner. So when you get induction, it's 35,000 BTU equivalent. So you actually get more heat output with electric powered induction in the home setting than you do with gas. So when I was working in the retail showrooms teaching people about the technology, we got a lot of people buying in to get to the induction. We're seeing the trend in the luxury lines. People are doing induction by and large in their homes with the luxury side of things. I want to demonstrate, we'll make some pancakes because I thought we'd do a little dessert before I go. And I do have gluten-free, dairy-free. These are gluten-free pretzels, dairy-free chocolate. Because it does have high heat, high output, we can sear, browns, sizzle, saute, anything you want to cook. Heat is heat. So the food doesn't know where the heat's coming from, right? In that cookware, heat is heat. Especially when we're talking about surface cooking here and induction, that's when we're going surface to surface. So it's the food's not going to know a difference. The only thing you sacrifice by not having open flame cooking, if we're going to flambe, we want to tilt and ignite that, or char peppers, eggplant, things like that. I just assume everyone's got a creme brulee torch like I do at home. Just pull that out, get that going.
what are the controls on it? Is it like 0 to 10 or?
Yeah, so it is going to be 0, usually 0 to 10, low, medium, high. We're starting to see more and more of them be able to be set to temperature. So you can do 350, 375, 400. Some of them will even have a instant read thermometer, and it relays that information back and forth. This is actually a Heston Q brand, which means there's cookware that has a Bluetooth heat sensor in it. You can synchronize both of them, so where it calibrates the temperature. Both of those can synchronize with an app, and you have video guided recipes, so people can learn a meal as they're cooking it. Really great for folks that are intimidated by the kitchen. But its high is higher than what people are used to. You know, low, medium, high. 1 through 10 is the same, but if this goes up to 35,000 BTU equivalent, it's like turning up to 11, right? So people, I caution to say 3/4 heat should be your high, unless you're boiling water, then that's really thermally dense and can use a lot of that energy. We see a elevation impact our heating, our cooking, so the higher we get, the less oxygen in the air, gas burns even more inefficiently. And so boiling a pot of water for pasta up in a ski town, it's to be a 45-minute endeavor, whereas here we're able to get that in just a few minutes. Any questions? I'd like to keep a conversation. Keep it going.
We got one last summer, and it just was revolutionary.
Oh,
You know?
great.
I mean, the big demo that they show you is they take a teapot full of water, they put it on there, and like within 5 seconds, you're starting to hear the boiling sound of that water happening. It's like, wait a minute, you just put that on there. And it maybe takes 2 minutes for that full pot of boiling water to blow the whistle. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because traditionally you would have a chain reaction of heat coming through the cookware, whereas this, the magnetic energy field is about 1 inch or more. It just grabs the actual molecules in the metal and just starts rubbing them together.
And so can you just use any metal cookware? Like I see you're using cast
Oh,
iron.
yeah, no, great question. Compatible. So it doesn't have to be induction specific, it just has to be magnetic. So ferrous metal. So if a magnet sticks to it, it's going to work. You can do the magnet test. Cast iron works really well. I cook almost exclusively on cast iron. These are stainless steel covered pit pots. You know, the all clad is really popular. Those are all clad in stainless. That's why they're called that. And then the core metals can be different. Every metal reacts to heat differently. So a lot of times we'll have layers of different things. Aluminum grabs heat but doesn't hold it very well. Iron holds heat but is really slow to heat. Copper transfers heat. So when you get a layer of each, you're starting to get the benefits of those properties without sacrificing. Most cookware now, most brands are going to have a entry-level cookware set that's induction compatible. The market share is growing considerably, so all those brands are getting on board. We're also seeing, you know, market share grow for a variety of reasons. Europe has always been ahead of us. Energy is always more expensive out there, so their market share of induction is much higher than what we have. It's tested, it's trusted, it's something I've been using. You know, I came up through the Broadmoor 20 years ago now, and we used induction all the time. So, you know, the chef's the right tool for the job. Induction is great for if you go to a buffet, banquet. A lot of times we're doing omelets out in the station out there, so we don't want the whole dining area to smell like smoke. You're seeing pastry shops use it. The ventilation requirements are much lower for induction. Residentially, you don't need those. Building code stipulates by combustion how much ventilation you need. So you still want ventilation, but you can spec it much lower rates than, say, if you've got a 6-burner gas range, and then you're going to have a 48-inch hood, and now you're over 4 inches CFM. Now you got to have makeup air somewhere else, which is air coming into the house that's got to be heated, treated, filtered, and all that. You know, your underpowered gas burner in the home setting is now snowballing.
What is the relative cost of these now, and has that started to go down?
Yeah, great question with the cost. Yeah, so a single countertop burner like this, these are now at like 60, 80 bucks I see. $100 gets you a decent one, or you know, the top line Duck's Top makes some. We go residential. We did see them come in at the top of the market. All appliances go from commercial application to luxury residential, and then they start trickling down. We're seeing them in mid-market and lower. I'm seeing 30-inch Ford burner induction almost hitting that $1,000 mark. So 1,200, 1,500 fluctuates on sale.
We have a good old fashioned range, and it was far less than that.
Yeah, what'd you get? Or,
I mean, it's a Frigidaire.
Frigidaire, yeah.
Yeah, it works great.
So they're all starting to see the writing on the wall. The brands, I go out to the kitchen and bath industry show every year, and the brands more and more talk about it, present it. The tricky thing with the appliance industry, the built-in appliance industry, is no one brand is motivated to put themselves out there and really push a certain technology. They just sell it all. It doesn't really matter. They're going to get that client either way. Where we see some trends is like the countertop world, is where we're starting to see air fryers, Instapots, rice cookers, all this stuff that we've electrified used to be what the range did. So as I talk to people who are hesitant, I don't want to give up the idea of gas in the home, they've already by and large electrified their cooking. I don't know a lot of people that still turn on a 30-inch range to cook something when they can do it in an air fryer, toaster oven, all that stuff.
Does it connect to a 120 or 240?
So this is going to be 120 for a plug-in countertop. Usually you can get a double deck, so two. Once you get into a range, you're going to need 240. It's usually 50 amps. So some of the smaller panels, older homes, will need some kind of upgrade potentially. Panel limits. You can hit those, and you'll need to do that. Colorado Energy Office has had that IRA money coming in, so the Here in the Homes programs are about to launch, supposedly, for the last 18 months. And so I've been keeping an eye on that. That's where they're doing rebates for the in-home ranges, so $840 for a range. And then that can also trigger panel and wiring upgrades. And those are where you start to get bigger costs. So a lot of rebates you can get the panel upgrade rebate to happen as well, which I always advise people if you're doing that. So like in Denver, we have a heat pump or an EV charger install rebate can also trigger that panel upgrade rebate. And the smart electrician is going to say, I want to maximize this and get in here once and expand it as much as possible. But the whole industry is rethinking how we think about energy use and how we get it through the panel, because there's a lot of capacity that's not used, and everything is engineered to be peak demand, which is I have to have enough power to have everything I own on full blast all at once, which is not really how we operate, but that's how we build capacity towards. So we're starting to see more and more smart panels entering the market. Span is a big brand that's doing that, or making it where you can start shifting load. So even EV chargers usually have some programmability where you plug it in. It's not actually going to charge until the middle of the night, off-peak hours, trickle charge. You can program it. We're starting to see that mindset go into the home. We're starting to see whole home have an interface where you're able to prioritize. So say everyone's home, you're cooking, someone's taking a shower, and the laundry's going. It's going to juggle and say, okay, I'm going to turn one of these off for 10 minutes until we're done doing all the stuff we're doing. So we're starting to see a lot of load shift happening. Just going to make some pancakes while we're going. Anybody, any other questions on?
Yeah, I'm curious. So since you do the education on this, what do you see as, obviously every audience is different, what do you see as the main pro that people are hooking onto? Obviously the safety portion is for the senior communities. Like what do you think is the biggest?
Yeah, I think it's a culmination, or it depends on the person. So, some people want to be the health and safety. You want air quality, safety. If you've got kids, I've got my kids, they're right up on the oven with me on the range cooking, and we don't think anything of it until we show pictures to people. Like, what's going on? So it really does, and I can adjust. Usually I adjust that argument to people. Sustainability is usually the last thing I touch on, because that can be a third rail for a lot of people, or make them roll their eyes and say, I'm giving stuff up because of this. Well, no, we're gaining in every single factor, every category in some way. We're giving up very little. And so it really depends. I think, you know, by and large, and when we look on the commercial side, I think it's control, precision, automation. So this, not only is it hot, it's consistent and it's responsive. So if I'm boiling something and want to turn it down to a simmer, I can do that. That happens near instantaneously because the power output's changed. It's also a constant amount of energy all the time. It's not fluctuating on and off like an electric top, and it's not eyeball it with the reed. So fine dining for a long time has gone the modernist route, which is specific pieces of equipment that can do precise cooking, and we're seeing that migrate throughout all of the restaurant.
And I'm just saying from experience.
Yeah.
We were gas cookers forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing, our question then was, how responsive it is, and that's faster, except that it's instant.
Yeah. When it first came on the market too, you know, they leaned into the whole touch screen, no knobs. People really like that tactile experience. So we're seeing the brands actually fill in that gap. And we're starting to see my GE Cafe at home has knobs on the front to interact with instead of the touch screen. Touch screen can be frustrating because if anything splashes out, you can shut it off automatically. And then also for people that have sight impaired, having actual physical knobs are really helpful.
You know, we notice when our grandkids do what you are doing with your kids, my wife will have the grandkids stand by her, and nobody even worries about it anymore. But what happens is, because ours is a touch, that you drag your finger to increase it, is the kids see those lights and they touch them.
Yeah.
And they go like this, and pretty soon we're, you know,
Yeah.
like that.
Things can
But it's
murmur.
really, it is neat to be able to have kids that close to a cooking surface and not really have to worry about them burning themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so remind me, what was the efficiency comparison between that and an electric?
So this is 90 to 95% efficient. Electric radiant is 75.
Okay.
Gas is 35 to 40 on a good day.
And so I'm thinking far down the road, once we get to full electrification in building code laws and everything, that would then be the argument for doing induction as opposed to regular electric stove top getting increased efficiency.
Yes.
Building that into energy standards.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's a little tricky. I mean, we are walking into a new forefront, right? And you know, I'm talking with Denver, the CBD permitting department. There aren't great conversion calculations right now to go gas to electric, right? You can't. Some people have done straight BTU to kilowatt power output, but if you don't factor in the difference in efficiency, now we're expecting way more electric energy load, which is already big demand as it is, right? So we're starting to see that issue. You know, I'm working with, I've had roundtables with architects in the food service industry, designers, engineers, and operators, to get that insight and to start talking about, hey, where's the gray area that we haven't really looked at yet? How can we get this stuff into focus and start resolving those? So that's, I mean, I think when I was hired on, the thought was, oh, Andrew's gonna go convince some chefs to go with electric instead of gas. The demand, because the chefs aren't writing the checks to buy the equipment, developers, restaurateurs are, and they look at the bottom line, energy use, ventilation requirement, all that kind of stuff. That argument, it still needs to happen. Education is still a bottleneck, but we also see we're already hitting older buildings, load capacity, and those kinds of things that we need to address. Work with Excel to start getting a plan. Even getting site readiness is an issue. I know we're veering off a little bit. I don't know how much behind the curtains I can say, but like with Excel, what I've heard from the food service industry is Excel will not review a site to see its feasibility for energy demand for potential upgrading until after all the city permits are granted. So, so now you put all that on the developer to take a leap of faith, and you get down this road, and now Excel's going to come out and say, oh, actually, we can't get you the energy demand that we need for this operation. So we're seeing kitchens already hitting that limit of, well, you can't spec as much electric as you want. So because, you know, raw energy's got to come from somewhere. So getting the gas to convert is one thing on wanting to. So those are, you know, those are the kinds of things where I think we can get some really good gains that are cost effective. I'm not going to say it's free, but information spreading is cheaper than buying people equipment. So by and large, that's kind of what I help do.
Do you have figures on what the cost for a typical household is for cooking with gas versus like their energy cost versus induction?
I haven't gotten those numbers specifically on like the energy use. You know, with the efficiency factor, you would think it's going to be shorter. The one number you do see, and this is a fair point too, is cooking is a small percentage of your energy use. And what we see is that it's usually a gas burner. That's the emotional attachment people, the romanticized, right? To where that's usually the last hurdle to go from some gas to zero. So those gains, I mean, it's something I'm looking into getting more data on, but it's also thinking, hey, if I can get people to electrify their heating and cooling, water and air, and the next step is just to get rid of the gas line altogether, that's the bigger argument to make and say, let's do that. We're already seeing PG&E has already got a program where they're, instead of keeping up with maintenance costs for gas lines, they're telling homeowners in certain areas, they're like, if your whole block agrees to let us electrify everything on us, we can just decommission this gas line. That's more cost effective. So we're already seeing the gas infrastructure feeling the crunch because that maintenance cost is so high for. I don't know where we're at time, but you got it.
You guys have questions? If not, we can transition over to Dana and have you
Sure.
cooking.
Got some snacks here.
Are there any other questions or comments or?
Thank you. Thanks. I'll leave my cards here. Happy to help.
Yeah, I'll end with, is there anything you want from us vis-a-vis education, reach out, anything?
You know, I love doing stuff like this, doing it with the city, happy to help. I'm in a weird spot, so I'm a resident of Inglewood, longtime resident. I've done a few sustainability grants, some of the neighborhood improvement grants. Last year we did neighborhood improvement, we made a kids activity book. So this went out to a lot of school kids. Folks are welcome to look at those. That was a partnership with Arapahoe County. And yesterday I interviewed to be on this commission as well, so. Yeah, please. We got lots of time.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, that was really informative.
That was really awesome.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pass it off to Dana.
So Tim, do I just say next when you?
Yeah, you can just tell me next.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Danna Liebert, and I know a bunch of you already. Those of you who know me know that I am basically obsessed with the beauty and benefits of native plants. I run an ecological landscaping company here in Englewood, Grounded Growth Landscape Design, and I serve on the board of Wild Ones Front Range, the Colorado chapter of a national nonprofit dedicated to promoting the use of native plants for a climate resilient future. So I'm going to talk about how landscaping with native plants offers real, tangible solutions to some of Englewood's pressing environmental problems and challenges, and an accessible way for people to take climate action. So I hope this talk deepens your understanding of native plants as a multi-purpose problem-solving tool and sparks ideas for the Sustainability Commission. Next. So let's start with a definition. A native plant is one that evolved in a specific region or ecosystem and was present before European settlement. Since plants don't know political borders, for Englewood, we can think of native plants as ones from the shortgrass prairie ecosystem. In contrast, the landscape plants, you find that these are actually real living plants. They look like super plastic, but the landscape plants you find at big box stores are primarily from other continents. These plants are, I think of them as the fast food of landscaping. They're bred for uniformity and instant gratification, not ecological function. And like fast food, they offer little nutrition for insects or ecosystems. And they hook you into repeated purchasing with annual replanting and chemical inputs. Next. So native plants offer all the color and visual interest, but they also have superpowers. They clean our air, manage stormwater, and support wildlife, things that ornamental plants don't do. So let's look at a few of Englewood's environmental issues and how native plants offer solutions. This Englewood landscape is a food desert for pollinators and birds. It may seem like a world with fewer bugs would be pleasant. We'd have no need for bug repellent, nothing eating the leaves of our plants. However, insects play a vital role in the biodiversity that underpins life as we know it. From the air we breathe and water we drink to the food we eat. Their steep decline isn't just an ecological issue, it's a food security issue. We're already seeing reduced crop yields and rising food costs as a result of pollinator loss. But rather than give you all alarming statistics on biodiversity collapse, I'm going to focus on understanding how we can flip this trend in Englewood. Next. So most native insects are specialist foragers, meaning they can only survive on the native plants they co-evolved with. You've probably heard about monarch butterflies and their dependence on milkweed. All right, I'm going to give just one sobering statistic. Monarch populations have declined by as much as 83% between 2000 and 2020. This is in part because monarchs, as well as other butterfly species, will only lay their eggs on specific host plants that their baby caterpillars can feed on. And in most places, those plants simply aren't there to support them anymore. The shortage of host plants ripples through the ecosystem in many ways. Birds rely on caterpillars as their primary protein source to feed their young. So as insect populations have dropped, so too have bird populations, especially among Western songbirds. Biodiversity collapse can feel pretty overwhelming and terrifying, but it's truly a solvable problem. We know that when we plant key native plants and build habitat corridors through urban areas, insects and bird populations come back. Next. So at a recent Englewood climate workshop for residents, poor air quality was one of the top concerns. So I wasn't reading the environmental challenge number 2, carbon emissions and air quality. Typically, when we talk about improving air quality, we focus on trees and transportation. However, prairie ecosystems are some of the best carbon sinks on the planet. Next. So, next slide. What if an air quality solution looked like this? These tough Colorado native plants sequester carbon and clean our air thanks to their deep and extensive roots. Which grow up to 15 feet deep, as this chart shows. And this guy holding a native grass shows. Through photosynthesis, the plants take in carbon and release oxygen. They pull carbon and pollutants from the atmosphere into their deep roots and feed soil microbes, which helps lock carbon into the soil for stable long-term storage, even more stable than carbon stored in forests. Plus, compared to trees, prairie grasses reach maturity faster using far less water. Oh, and if you look at the left side of that chart, that tiny little plant with roots that go only 6 inches down. That's our traditional turf grass, Kentucky bluegrass, which is not actually from Kentucky. It's a non-native grass from Europe and North Asia. And as you probably know, it requires far more water than our annual rainfall yields, and it provides little, if any, ecosystem benefits. That grass the guy on the right is holding could be mowed to create a neat-looking lawn. Next slide. So if you do want the lawn aesthetic, one that works for Englewood's ecosystem, you can grow a native grass lawn. Just know that it requires different practices than Kentucky bluegrass. In Colorado Springs, after the city's own learning curve with installing native turf grass, they spent 2 years trialing to figure out the best practices for growing and maintaining turf grass. And they now run a program to teach other cities how to install and maintain native turf grass successfully. Next. Environmental challenge 3, flooding and extreme weather. We know that flash floods have hit Englewood hard and have led to costly new stormwater infrastructure. But what if part of the solution could be planted right in our yards and medians, and it looked like this? Next slide. Prairie plants are adapted to survive the weather extremes of flooding and drought. Without costly amendments, the plants improve soil capacity to absorb and store rainwater. During storms, their roots create pathways for rainwater, which increases groundwater infiltration and reduces surface runoff. While this survival strategy helps the plants store water to survive drought, it also can protect us from the dangers of flash floods. Here's how another city is responding to flooding. Next. So in New Orleans, a city that's no stranger to flooding, simple, affordable initiatives like rain gardens, rain barrels, and bioswales are helping soak up rainwater in low-lying neighborhoods. 150 of these small projects now collectively retain 190,000 gallons of water per storm, providing cost-effective flood mitigation. As a community member said about these rain gardens, quote, "There are multiple benefits. It's about flood risk, it's about water quality, it's about green spaces in your neighborhood, it's about the urban heat island effect, and it's about beautification." End quotes. That's why I call it a multi-purpose problem-solving tool. So next time you see irrigation water running off a Kentucky bluegrass lawn and into the gutter, as we so often do see, imagine how native prairie plants would draw that water deep into the soil, saving it for a not-so-rainy day. Next. On the other end of the weather extreme, drought and hot summers, that's the right one, and hotter summers present increasing irrigation costs and other challenges to maintaining one's landscape. Here is one Englewood resident, some of you might recognize, installing native plants she received through Englewood's Garden in a Box program. These plants are inherently adapted to survive heat, hail, and dry spells, making them more resilient and less expensive to maintain than thirsty lawns and dainty ornamentals. Next. Englewood's Garden in a Box program and the proposed native landscape certification offer residents a sustainable alternative to traditional landscape solutions aimed at tackling heat, drought, and weeds, like this one, which understandably many people are turning to cut down on their water bills and maintenance. Next. So we can rethink landscaping across Englewood, but sustainable landscaping is as much about how you plant and maintain as it is about what you plant. So here are a handful of sustainable landscape practices. I'm going to read them because there's some typos up there. Avoid tilling and soil disturbance to protect soil health and leave the sequestered carbon in the soil. In fall, leave the leaves for insect nesting habitat. In spring, wait to mow until ground nesting native bees wake up. which it's considered once there's been a week of temperatures above 50 degrees, it's okay to mow. Skip the weed barrier, instead mulch, and skip the pesticides, instead mulch properly so you don't need to use them to resist weeds. Your best defense against weeds is planting a dense, deep-rooted native habitat. And choose plants adapted to your soil rather than trying to change your soil, and use motion sensor lighting rather than continuous landscaping lighting at night on your landscapes. And also note CSU Extension created a training for municipal park staff on habitat-friendly maintenance guidelines so that the benefits of ecological landscaping are not undermined by the maintenance practices. And finally, the last slide. In closing, I do want to acknowledge that there are differences between landscaping with native versus traditional nursery plants. There's a learning curve. Native plants call for an understanding of their different needs and habits, and yes, maybe even a change in our aesthetic preferences. But should the question continue to be, will native plants look neat enough? Or should it be, will future generations have clean air, water, and food? Let's learn as a city how to plant our yards, medians, and parks to solve ecological problems now and for the future. Thank you for inviting me to speak. Kept it shorter, so if anyone has questions or
Lots of great info
discussion,
there. Immediate questions or comments?
How are you defining native plants? I think we've discussed this before.
Okay.
Like, are you getting a list from somewhere?
Oh, there are a lot of lists that exist. I mean, the definition is, it can be, some people may say, well, it's a North American native. You might say it's Colorado. I think what we want to focus on for the most benefit in Englewood are Colorado and regionally native plants. And, you know, even within Colorado, we've got a lot of different ecosystems, much more variety than most states. And so a plant that grows at high elevations is actually not so low water because they're used to more rainfall. You know, so it's sort of by ecosystem, and that our shortgrass prairie ecosystem spreads east of us. And also just by observing the plants. You know, honeybees are generalists, so they'll go to any plant. But if you watch a plant you've installed, and there's some great non-natives too, and you see our various sized native Colorado bees, I think there's like 200 or 2,000. There's a lot of species. If you see a variety of insects on the plant, then the plant's doing well, doing good.
How do you feel about herbs as a, I mean, is it fall in the same category for you? And my wife has a nice herb garden, and we just
I'm
love
all
the,
for
you know.
putting food-bearing plants in a ornamental landscape, you know, and so yeah, put herbs in. You don't have to have 100% native plants. I don't, you know, and every bit that we add, you know, you could live in an apartment with a terrace and you just put some pots of plants on your terrace. Every bit is adding to, you know, a collective pathway for pollinators.
If you're to switch over from a turf yard, do you have to do it all at once, or can you gradually change?
Gradually. I would say what makes sense is to do it by your irrigation zones. So pick a zone that you want to take out, and just make sure you really do remove that turf. Because that some people who rush that process, if you're doing it organically, you don't want to rush it. and end up having turf. It's a short grass, but those roots are pretty tough, and they'll come back and kind of grow into the plants you've planted and be an ongoing problem. So take the time to do it right.
I think that's such an important point about not trying to aim for 100%, because I think people are so intimidated by it and think, oh, well, now I don't have any grass to walk on, now I don't have anywhere for my dog to go. And it's like, well, you don't have to do 100% or do it all at once.
Really
It's a
that's high.
phased-in approach is
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
better.
Phased in. I started landscaping my front yard before I knew anything about native plants. So it's about 50% not native,
Yeah.
but each year I add some more natives.
Is it easy enough to get native plants? Can you accidentally buy them at Home Depot, or do you need to like go on your land to get them?
I would say go ask for them at Home Depot.
Okay.
Ask for them at, get a list. You can download it from Wild One's website and go to every nursery and say, I'm looking for these plants. Where's your native plant section? But the truth is, it's still a challenge until more people are asking for it at nurseries. And there are a lot of great mail order online nurseries for natives, and then Harlequin's in Boulder is a really good source.
So is High Plains.
Yeah, High Plains, if you'll drive to
Loveland.
Loveland, they have a fantastic selection there and really healthy plants.
I was wondering if it'd be mixed into those bags of like wildflower seeds.
Yeah,
or
I wouldn't do those
Probably not.
because they put a high percentage of cheap seed in there. And there are good seed mixes, but I'd get it from a company that does native seeds.
Right.
One of the big things that we're trying to do with the certification program is exactly what you're saying, and that is to encourage anybody to start anywhere. Put a pot out, okay, try it, and so that we can get more people on board in a gradual way, so that once they'll get their own enthusiasm because they're going to have successes with it, and they'll want to expand it on their own.
And I think one of the things that hooks people is like the first hummingbird you see on the plants, and if you have kids and like they can interact with nature this way, it's powerful.
Any other questions or comments?
With kids, I saw there's one grass in there, like the native, it looks like it's not great for running around on. How do you balance that?
It's not as resilient. That's the truth. I do think Kentucky bluegrass has its place on sports fields. But if you think about how much of it we have that no one sets foot on, that we irrigate, we mow, we put chemicals into maintaining it, it's totally unsustainable. But there's another grass that's not native, that's low water, dog tough grass that is really tough, like Kentucky bluegrass. It's from South Africa. And it holds up to dog urine.
What we've been doing in our yard is we have a lot of grandkids around now, so we just have one little stretch that's Kentucky bluegrass and the rest is converted to other things. And that way they can still play soccer and stuff there.
Great.
It's the majority of the yard.
Yeah,
That's the only place we have to water now, so.
that's awesome.
I remember back home in Chicago, they would do clover in their backyard, which grew super well for them. And I don't know if that would be a recommendation out here or.
People have done it.
People do it. I don't recommend it just because it spreads really aggressively. It's not native. It will support generalist pollinators, but I would do other things instead.
When I was doing research on that, I found that it doesn't actually save much water over bluegrass either.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not a benefit that way either.
Yeah, and how long from the time that a person sort of made that transition, and this is probably a good question for Tracy because you're in the middle of it, but how long would you say it takes to do the crossover where you're having to maintain the native population, or to the point where it's sort of on its own and it's able to maintain itself?
So there's no such thing as a no maintenance landscape.
Okay.
Unless you want it, I mean, in nature that happens because there is a balance of the plants that keep each other in check. But there's always going to be some. But I think the sort of weeding maintenance, it's a question of how well you mulch to begin with, how well you prepare your site. If you do all that well, it shouldn't be that big a deal, you know, and within a few years, those plants you planted spread out. And yeah, and you know, some people like a more bare specimen type of garden. I generally go for the plants becoming the mulch by planting densely.
And watering amounts, how do you handle the early on water needs?
It needs to be watered regularly the first year, then every other week the second year. This is in general, you know, it depends on the site. And then after that, it could go, the way I plant, it could go unwatered. If you want more color and longer bloom, water once a month. And I thought you were going to ask, how long does it take for the landscape to get established and look good? And
it was more about how long does it take until you feel like you've crossed over.
I'd say 2 years.
Not necessarily that it's, you know, beautiful, but that it's, I won't call it self-sustaining, but working in that direction.
I think the landscape will be mature. Those plants will mature in 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Their first year, they may bloom, but they're putting most of their energy into growing deep roots. And that's what makes them so resilient for the long run. So that's why they're not total instant gratification, but they're long-term gratification.
Phrase is sleep, creep, leap. First year they sleep, and then they creep the second year, and then they leap.
What's above ground does that. Yes, below ground, there's a whole lot.
Interesting.
And soil health is everything.
Yeah.
Very cool. Any questions or anything? No? Yeah. Well, thank you, Dan.
Sure.
That was super informative, and I think we'll have you back. Are you officially on the subcommittee, or are you just are you part of the
I think I'm officially on.
verified?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
She and our, you know, emeritus illustrator
Yeah.
is on this.
Sounds like a wealth of information, so that's great. Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Sure, my pleasure.
All right, we can go ahead. Next up, our city updates. Are you doing?
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, first, this is something I don't know if Mel has shared this with you, but we are a finalist for a program called All America City. So this is actually something that's been around many years. I don't know how many years, long time. But it's sponsored by the National League of Cities, and essentially it recognizes several cities every year. And each year there's a different theme. You may have seen, like if you've driven through Aurora, Wheat Ridge, I think Lakewood, they've all been All America Cities. So if you may drive over their borders, you may see a little sign that says "Welcome to Lakewood, All America City." It really, you may ask, like, what's the purpose of it? It really is just an acknowledgement of cities that have achieved great things. They really focus on community-driven projects. They like projects that involve not just the city. In fact, I've never seen a project that's just the city that wins. It's always one that's partnering with the school district, with other cities, with residents, with the community. And each year it's a different theme. We were a finalist a couple years ago where the theme was really about, I wouldn't quite call it emergency management, but it was basically being prepared for emergencies. We were one of 20 national finalists. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. This year, the theme was all about sustainability and resilience. And so a lot of the work that Mel and Aiden have done in terms of working with the business community, the resiliency workshops, really fit in well with it. And so Liz Ramsey, who you may know, who's a management fellow in our office, and Mel worked on an application. And then I got the disappointing news about a month ago that we didn't get it. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, they did a great job with it. I go on vacation for a week, and I landed, and I texted our public works director, who was the interim city manager, acting city manager, and I was like, everything okay? And he was like, we're an All-America City finalist. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I already got the rejection. Come to find out, one of the finalists declined, and so we were the next one. We were the 21st, and so now we're a finalist. And so I think Mel is going to be reaching out to all of you because it is something we would like community members, including commission members, to be a part of. Basically, it's a two-part process. The first part is what we've already done, which is submit an application. So you basically write an application, and they select 20 finalists. And then if you become one of the finalists, the next stage is a skit. And usually there's a festival. And so when we first were finalists in 2021, it was during the pandemic still. And so it was all virtual. So we actually did it at Inglewood High School. We did it like in a classroom setting. This year, it's actually, the conference is in Denver, Colorado, so here, obviously, and it's the weekend of June 27th to the 26th to the 28th. So it's over the weekend. I think we're going to be presenting that afternoon on Saturday, maybe around 1 or so. And we have a lot of work to do. And so Riley, tonight is just for me to tell you the good news, to thank you for your part and all the great work that's been done in collaboration with Mel and Aiden and others. And Mel will almost certainly, I'm sure, she'll be either emailing you or in your June meeting talking more about, what it is and how to get involved in it. But that's a big news for us. Any questions on that before I move on? So
it's an in-person skit?
It is, yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah. And yeah, we've talked about, I guess our city manager has had success with doing like a news skit before, so we're talking about that idea. When we did it like as high school, our skit last time was we were pretend high school students. That was why we actually did it at the middle school. But yeah, I thought that worked out really well. But again, to win, it really does need to include a lot of community engagement. I really think the resiliency workshops and also the work Mel has done in terms of going door to door, mobile home parks, and that kind of thing is going to be huge. The green team diverted. I think Mel's probably talked to you about the green team, which is our staff team that has at least one representative from each department, diverted 57 pounds of electronic waste in April, so that's obviously significant. And then I'm not sure if Mel has shared this with you, but we do have an internship program at the city where basically every department that's general funded gets one intern. So we will be hiring, we've actually already hired an intern who will be starting soon in June. He goes to DU. So he'll be starting when his quarter system is done. However, he'll be helping with some sustainability work. Mel was able to find a sustainability program. I think it was through ICLEI, which we just talked about before, which is an international association dedicated to sustainability. And so this person is funded by ICLEI. They're a university student, I believe a grad student. He's working one day, I think it is, in the office, the rest of the time at home. And yeah, Mel was very lucky to find him, and she has a lot of projects we'll be working on. So is there anything else? Just, I guess, last thing, not related to sustainability per se, but our annual event called Celebrate Inglewood. That's a big spring celebration, is this Saturday if you're around.
Where's that at, out here?
Yeah, it'll be out here, yep. And then one more plug, actually, unrelated to sustainability, is the reason Rick and I were on time or a little late today was we were both at an open house for a big project that Mel's actually a part of that we're kicking off called the South Broadway Revitalization. And really what it is right now is it's engaging the community to kind of see what they think the future should be of the corridor. And so we've developed kind of 9 strategies. So it's everything from public art to wayfinding to economic development, the Complete Streets program that's already going on. And so what we're doing right now is we're going to be doing community engagement to kind of figure out a name and a brand for the corridor. And then we're also asking community members to sign up if they want to be a part of our strategy group. So each of those things that I mentioned, there's 9 in total, has a group that will be a mix of staff members and community members that'll be shaping kind of the future of the corridor. There was a lot of enthusiasm. I think we had about 50 people there, some business owners, residents, community members in general. With really positive feedback. So Mel's a part of that working group, so I'm sure she can talk more about that in future meetings. But we do have an Inglewood Engaged page up. If you're interested, you can just go to our website or just Google it, and there you'll find the form where you can submit. We're calling it an application, but it's really just a sign-up sheet to be part of one of these groups.
And there's a nice little blurb on each of them about what the focus is of that breakout. And you get an option then to choose, I think, 3 possibilities of how you can serve on those. So if you want to look at it from the sustainability lens, you look at things like, how they're doing the beautification projects and those kinds of things. And how would you, add to that from our knowledge base?
Yeah, exactly. And so like one of the things that's spurred it is what we're calling complete streets, which is basically a set of best practices around street redesign to make things more accessible, multimodal, but also more aesthetically pleasing and hopefully more environmentally sustainable as well. And so there will be opportunities for art, for plantings, trees will be a part of it. So yeah, there's a great plug, and that's why Mel is a part of the work group.
Sounds good. If you want to get one more committee thing to do.
Yeah, I know you've all committed a lot to the city, so we thank you.
All right, ideas for the June meeting. I know we have Sustainability Commission, or not the Sustainability Commission, the Communications Subcommittee will report out, get some feedback on that for the next Englewood Magazine. Beyond that, any other ideas or suggestions?
We're going to meet Aiden, right? Next time, I think.
Is that right?
I think
Okay.
That's what Mel told me.
What's that?
I know we had a couple on the hopper
Has Aiden come to this yet, or? Oh, okay.
He's come
Was
back.
he here?
early on.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was the intern. I can't remember.
Maybe it was the intern. Okay. Yeah, I know she had a couple things in the hopper, so.
That's right, Aiden.
Yeah, I know Mel is a master list, but yeah, if not, anything else, feel free to shoot us an email or anything. We can piece something together. Yeah, with that, if there's nothing else, no other comments or questions, I'll go ahead and close up this month's meeting. So, yeah, thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for the presentation and the food. That was fantastic.
So you interviewed yesterday?